back again. Today is going to be recording acoustic guitar. So for that, I've got some of the stuff, the essentials, handy. First is, of course, the guitar itself. So I'll be using my Martin D15. So mahogany top, back and sides. I like this guitar a lot, and I like to use these Fender Tortuga picks. It sounds good with it. Right now it's tuned down a half step, so it's E flat standard. So I wish I could put some new strings on it, but I don't believe guitar shops are considered essential during this self-isolation. So it is what it is. So that's going to be the guitar. This is the mic that I'll be using. It's the M-Audio Sputnik. It's a tube microphone. It's shiny and pretty. So it's a tube microphone, so it does have an external power supply. I'm going to have to hook that up too. I'll show you a little bit once I get going on that. But this microphone, it's my favorite sounding mic of mine for acoustic guitar. It adds a little bit of brilliance, but not in a brittle kind of way. So you get some shimmer out of it, and it also still does have some body. It's got a high pass filter, which is great because it gets rid of that boominess, especially on this mahogany guitar. I do get some boominess and some weird mushiness out of some different mics, especially ribbon mics. So this mic sounds really good on it. I'm going to use it in cardioid and no pad. So another thing to mention is recording yourself at home. You don't have another engineer to listen to. You don't have a perfect listening environment. So to make do, what I like to use is these isolation headphones. So they're not the best sounding, but if you listen to some reference stuff, get used to their sound, the way that they block out a lot of outside sound, and then you can really hear the signal. Otherwise, you don't really know what you're getting. So I feel like these are very important in this kind of setup where I'm by myself recording. I need to know that my mic placement's good. I need to know there's nothing weird like a buzzing or some kind of humming. I have shut off every device, like my humidifier, my other computer and hard drive shut down. So as little as possible is making noise, but if something's being picked up, I want to be able to hear that. So the isolation headphones are great for that. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to also use this mixing board. So that's going to be my input. So I'm going to record through channel 24, way over here. And what I'm going to do is record it with no compression and no EQ. Just kind of a sample track. And then I'm going to play it back. And then I'm going to try out patching in some different compressors. So we'll get to the compressors a little bit later. So I'm going to patch in some compressors and mess around with the EQ a bit until I get something that's subtle and that sounds the way I want this guitar to sound with this microphone. And then I'm going to patch that compressor into my input chain, and that's going to be recorded on all these tracks. I'm going to keep it really subtle because I don't usually compress the tape, but I know I'm going to want this album to have a smooth sound. That compressor is going to tame any of the louder bits just to keep everything smooth. It's going to save me some time in the mix stage. And also I don't have enough outboard compressors to put a compressor on every single instrument, so if I do this now, I'll be relying less on plugins. So let's get to it. At this point, I've got the microphone set up where I want it. Got my guitar here, freshly tuned. The mic, since it's a tube mic, it's been on for maybe 5 or 10 minutes now to let the tube warm up. So I've got everything running through the board. So I'm going to listen back to the scratch guitar track and that drum beat that I put into the song. So I'm going to be playing along with that drum beat, so it should feel kind of natural. I've got the scratch guitar track in there too as a reference. So I'm just just going to record this. This is the test track, so that I can then fiddle with the EQ and compressor to get the settings right, and then once those settings are good, then I'll do the actual takes, because I'll have everything set and ready to go, because I can't play guitar and adjust those knobs at the same time. So I'm going to do this, and this is also very handy to have if you're doing everything yourself, is the Logic Remote app. So what I can do is just hit record here, and now it's going. Right now, that programmed drum beat is playing with the scratch guitar. So this is the new guitar. So you can see it's a little bit brighter, better sounding. That's the old one. It sounds kind of flat. So here's the new one. We like that sound. I do at least. So what I'm going to do though is EQ it a little bit. This is the old one. There's something about it that I do like more. And what it is this frequency in here that I don't like. Add a little brightness to it with the acoustic. So there's a little honkiness somewhere. Okay, so we can hear what the EQ has done to this. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to back those off a little more. Subtlety. So you can hear this. There's a little bit of something in the low end that makes it sound kind of muddy. When I put those in, it's got more attack from the pick, gets rid of that muddiness. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy these same EQ settings. So at this point, I've listened back, I made my EQ adjustments. This is the track that I was listening back from the computer. And track 24 over here is my input. So now those same EQ settings I've put over here. So every track that I record on the acoustic is going to have that sound. That's channel 6 on the board. So we got the output of the insert, and then I'm going to start with this Pro channel. So everything from the board, the inserts, are hooked up on this patch bay. And then all my gear is hooked into this other patch bay. So I can just plug this in, and it's essentially creating the loop from the board into these pieces of gear. So let's give it a listen. Okay. Okay, so we do have signal, that's good, right off the bat. Let's see, let's bypass the EQ because we don't necessarily need to do that. We already did the EQ. Right. Here's the compressor. Threshold is, so this is just start to just touch that right there. I want that. Let's mute the drums. So I'm using the ART Pro Channel, and I'm using the VariMu setting, which is an unusual type of compressor. A lot of the old vintage compressors that are ridiculously expensive use that, but this was far from ridiculously expensive. So get the master on 0. So what I'm going to do here, just to avoid any spikes, I'm going to patch this into 24. So now I've got my input channel 24 on the board is patched in, so it's going to go right through this. So as I track, I'm going to hit the EQ in the board, and then I'm going to hit this compressor. I have muted the scratch guitar track. I've got that drum beat going. I still like the way it sounds. Yeah, and I'm just going to record it now. I'll get the iPad down there. Here we go. Okay, so I recorded this acoustic guitar part. I like the way it sounds. I EQ'd and compressed to tape, which I don't normally do, but I'm trying something different. I kept the EQ very subtle. I backed it off about half of what I would have done if it was a mix that I was doing, just because I wanted to keep it subtle to tape. Same with the compression. I set it and then I backed it off a little bit, just so I was making sure it wasn't having any compression artifacts in there, just very subtle. But either way, it gels up that sound, smooths it out, got rid of some of that boomy low end, because there is going to be bass guitar in this song, on this album, so if I left that bass of this guitar in, I would just take it out later. It sounds thin as it is, but it'll sound nice after, trust me. So next up is, of course, doing this for all the other songs, and then once that is done, I will be doubling the parts. So playing the same thing, same guitar, same microphone, same compressor, and just playing it again to give it some width and give it a little bit more pop. And it sounds really nice. It gives it some dimension.